Sorry. Hi. So we are Popcorn Psychology. My name is Brittany Brownfield, and I'm a child therapist.
My name is Hannah Espinoza-Rimus. I'm a marriage and family therapist.
My name is Ben Stover. I'm an individual therapist.
And we, our podcast basically is every episode we pick a movie and we psychoanalyze it. We watch it through the eyes of a therapist. So we'll pick movies we haven't ever seen before, and sometimes we pick movies that we've seen a bunch before. But then once you watch it again as a therapist, it can... I'm trying not to ruin my favorite movies for myself, but some of them are going to straight up be ruined.
Yeah, I don't think we succeed at that all the time.
Yeah. So the topic for today is one chosen by our resident nerd, Benjamin. He is part of the 501st Legion, even.
I am.
For Star Wars. So, you want to introduce our topic for today?
Yes, so today we decided that we would do Revenge of the Sith. Since a lot of people are big fans of that movie, and there's some really, actually great examples of manipulation and gaslighting by Palpatine. So, given that we only have 25 minutes, we can't analyze the whole movie and all of the lore of Star Wars, but we will be definitely covering the gaslighting and manipulation that Emperor Palpatine shows to Anakin and how he turns to Darth Vader, even though it happens too quick.
Yeah, and so because this is...
I'm bad now.
True. Because this is a very short version of what we do, our episodes are usually like an hour and a half. We're only going to kind of touch upon what is grooming and gaslighting, how we saw that demonstrated within the movie via the Palpatine-Anakin relationship. And then actually, if you want to hear more, because we do like treatment, techniques, we get very specific about stuff. There's actually our very first episode is about Star Wars The Last Jedi. And we talk about this very same topic in much more detail between Kylo Ren and Emperor Snoke. So if you want to hear more, you can hear more through that episode, if you want to hear more specifics about this particular topic.
And for those that care, we did like it, so if you didn't like Last Jedi, get out.
Listen to it, because we loved it.
Controversial, but true.
Yeah, agreed.
So if you're not like me, if you're like me and I did not know who Palpatine was when Ben suggested this, apologies. Basically, he's like the big deal, right?
He's the big
the
bad.
prime minister
He's the
of
big
like
bad.
Star Wars. So
The Prime Minister of Star Wars. Good job, Brittany.
And so Anakin is basically, Anakin in general is in this very particular situation where he's pretty all over the place emotionally. He's unsure of himself, and he looked for a leader or a mentor and found that in Palpatine.
Right. Despite he had several other mentors with the Jedi, there's a special relationship that Palpatine was able to have with him and nurture him and provide him with unconditional positive regard all the time. And he manipulates and tweaks him and gives this little bit of encouragement but Anakin, I thought you were the best Jedi. You're clearly the most powerful. Where the others are like, Anakin, you have to tame your power. You have to be careful. You have to not have emotions. And he can't.
So basically what Palpatine does is what we call grooming. Now what grooming is the basics of grooming is, I always think of it as like a frog boiling alive in water and not realizing what's happening until they're dead. And so grooming is the slow process a predator or manipulator will do to their prey, or, a lot of times we see it more with like adults and children that they're going to abuse. And it's where you slowly normalize behaviors that you're doing towards them that are abusive or inappropriate or manipulative. And the beauty of it, to use that term, unfortunately, is that it is so slow that you normalize everything where the prey, I guess, or the Anakin of the story slowly just starts to be like, yeah, you're right. And it creates this environment where then, once you've actually followed through with the abuse and the trauma towards the person, they are like, part of why they won't tell a report is because, I was complicit in this, and I was complicit in this, and, I let this and this and this happen until all of a sudden this was happening. And how can I report when I let the other 12 steps before this final step occur? So how do we see grooming specifically between Palpatine and Anakin?
So in this movie, you see it a lot. It starts in the Attack of the Clones, which is the worst Star Wars movie. Fight me.
It's bad. It is bad.
It is so
I tried
bad.
to watch it.
We just had to watch the
2
YouTube
days.
clips. You tried for 2 days?
2 days.
It's not that bad. All right. The crowd overrules me. It's that bad. Fine. But when you see it there's little scenes where Palpatine is working on Anakin and just always providing that encouragement, always providing that, Anakin, you're the best, but you're the most powerful Jedi. Surely you'll be the most powerful Jedi that ever lived. I'm sure of it. And he makes him special when everyone else is taming him and trying to control him. And you see that continue on in Revenge of the Sith quite often, especially in the Darth Plagueis the Wise speech, where Palpatine has found the weakness. He found and exploited the weakness of Anakin believing and being afraid that Padme is going to die. And once he finds the fear and then makes himself the only person who can save her and teach him this skill that no one else will teach him, you see the manipulation grow.
He definitely does the thing where Palpatine finds the one thing that Anakin is invested in. So you take the one thing that he was invested in and you exploit it. And then you also isolate by saying that I'm the only person who can help you, or I'm the only person who has this thing, or I'm the only person who can teach you this skill or has this resource.
Or understands you.
That's the big one. And also, like you keep saying, is the special thing. Like, you're so good. Because where Palpatine is really good in this situation, where Anakin does have so many other supports, is you're right, is that everyone else is being, appropriate, and they're giving well-rounded advice. Like, you're really good, but you need to chill out, or take it slower, or you need to work on this, you have some weaknesses. And what Palpatine does that's really good is he just encourages, just makes you're so special, I'm the only one who understands you, and undercuts all of that well-roundedness.
Yeah, I think he does a really good job of, because he doesn't seem, in those scenes where he is with him, he's just talking to him very kindly, but also he has him by himself, so he has a chance to really focus on him. And I think when the Jedi start to kind of get this hint of like, look, something is going on here, and this is not okay, whatever is happening, but they don't talk to Anakin about it. Like, it's still this thing where he still has to figure out everything on his own, and is still really isolated in this place where he's trying really hard to be a Jedi, but it's clear that he's really struggling. And Palpatine picks him out and is like, okay, this is going to be, he's the chosen one or whatever. We're going to, I'm going to make sure that I use him very slowly. And the way that he does that in that setting and just really gives Anakin all the things that he's not hearing from other people, and makes it really hard for Anakin to really be able to pick sides.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing about grooming that's really important that we haven't talked about yet is that there's usually some degree of secrecy and secret sharing. And Palpatine sort of shares secrets with Anakin about what his plans are or what he thinks is going to happen, making Anakin feel special. But Anakin has clearly felt it's okay to share his secrets, because Palpatine manipulates it like, well, remember what you told me about your mother and the Tusken Raiders. And reminding him at the same time, masterfully manipulating the situation that both you did something wrong and I know that. And I'm the only one that knows that. And if other people knew that, you'd be in trouble. But also, but I'm on your side. What you did was right.
And he does a really good job, too, gradually, of normalizing acts that would go against the morals, or the morals of Anakin and of himself. Like, he's slowly being like, well, he says good is a point of view. That's something he says kind of halfway through the movie. So it's this slow, like, well, you can look out for yourself. That's okay. Or when, like, Obi-Wan was underneath that, I don't know, rocket ship. What do they call him?
He's under the platform that gets knocked down by Dooku in the beginning. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. And he's like, well, you could leave him there. Like, look out for yourself. Which is I think, a way of normalizing Anakin to another point of view morally. Like, you can leave behind someone you love to prioritize yourself. Or also prioritizing their relationship. And also trying to take away from Anakin the other more positive supports in his life that are taking away from their one-on-one special relation.
Which is something else that somebody who is abusive does, right? They single them out, they isolate them, and make sure that they can't rely on their same supports, because they in some ways try to turn them against them or make them feel like they don't deserve to have this other kind of support, because really, they're no good. And so he really...
He's gross.
He's a fucking asshole. Is what it is.
Well, then by the end of the movie, his outsides look like his insides.
Yeah.
But I think one thing that you mentioned,
Are you insinuating
Ben,
his face looks like an asshole?
Well, A wrinkly ball sack
like
is what he looks like
yeah.
more.
That seems more
But
accurate.
I think the good thing that you bring up with the sand people, though, is a thing that a predator will do is they'll take a secret of yours, and they'll make you be like, well, you're like bad too. And so that can start to manipulate the acts of like morality or like, well, you're as bad as me or that. And that's also a way of aligning you too, though, is making you feel like you're in it together in that very negative way as well. And it's also a way like you kind of deserve this in a very roundabout way as well.
Right, and then the thing to build on that, what happens is during that Darth Plagueis the Wise speech, which I think is probably the best scene in the whole movie, besides maybe the epic lightsaber fight. But that speech, at the very end of it, when he turns to him and is like, not from a Jedi. And it gives that speech, like right there, he's making that final hook where he turns it into, again, the people who you've been learning from and respect so much. They know this. They could tell you, but they won't do it. I will.
Mm-hmm. And it's just, getting him into more, because there's the end when, is it Samuel Jackson's character, Mace Windu? Yes, nailed it.
Yeah, you got it right.
I would like to point out you spelled that wrong.
Yeah, it's fine. I knew what I meant.
These notes are just for her.
Yeah.
Oh. Can you tell he's the only man on our podcast? Well, actually, you spell Mace Windu without an E on the end.
And then what they don't know is that I do that just so they'll say that. So
you're really
extra win for me there.
You're making your life so much better for yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I do a lot of that, sir.
You want to talk about man versus women communicating?
Burn!
But in that scene, that is where the biggest secret comes into play. Now they've done something kind of horrible together, and that can be what can really cement like an abuser and abusee relationship. Is now we've done something together that's really horrible, and now you're just as bad as me. And then you feel like at that point you can't report to someone else, or you can't tell your parents or a friend or something, because now you're a bad person too. And so it is, I hate saying good because that's so gross, but like it is a effective, there you go, girl. It's an effective way to be a predator, because you hear this a lot sometimes with kids who are abused, or like situations where there's a lot of chronic abuse happening, where the abuser will bring that person in with them to abuse someone else, to lull another kid into the situation, to abuse another sibling together. And then at that point, the kid feels like, or the abusee feels like, well, now I'm the same person, so I don't have any right to report. There's so much shame and guilt involved there. That's really how you can trap someone and keep them. And as you see in this movie with Anakin, it works like a charm. Because then, arguably, the flip is too quick. He's like, well, I'll fucking kill a whole group of kids.
The way that
no probs.
The way that his body sags after he kills Mace Windu, I think you can really tell that he's like, now I'm bad for sure. And now I'm just going to accept it. I'm just going to do all these horrible things, and I deserve it, and that's the kind of person that I am. And it is too fast, and
that's more of
that's a whole other thing we need to talk about. But I think that really shows what kind of reaction that you would get if that did really happen, where he's really, Palpatine is really egging him on to do this and to say, look, like, you're better than this, and I can give you the secret, and you need to kill this guy because he sucks, and you need to kill him.
And also, he like turns on the emotion really hard in that moment. Even he's acting like he's weak and he's this decrepit old man, and he's dying, and that is not at all the case. He is waiting for his opportunity to strike.
He's got those like lightning bolts in his hands.
Yeah, like he's fine. He's fine.
But I think
that is like your word, fine. I think
fine.
Bruce Wayne is fine.
That's just not to get digressed, but it's because me and Hannah have a speculation that Bruce Wayne is suicidal, and that makes Ben's heart hurt really hard. Yeah, and so it's just an ongoing.
Brings
thing.
It up every chance he gets.
Don't wear body armor if you are suicidal.
Anyway, so I would say, but I think even though we're not going to get into treatment, I think a good thing to talk about then is when you are in treatment with someone, if you're working with someone who has gone through, especially chronic slow grooming that is, leads to abuse or is in concurrent to abuse, is there has to be a lot of forgiving yourself for playing whatever role in it you felt like you played. Dax Shepard has a really good podcast, and he talks pretty openly in it that he was molested. And he talks like he'd do a lot of forgiving himself because this guy had a motorbike, and he really wanted the motorbike, and he let stuff happen because he wanted that motorbike, and how stupid he felt for that, even though he was like 7 or 8 years old. Yeah. And so it's a lot of, with Anakin, should he go to therapy, it would be a lot of, can you forgive yourself for the things you did when you were under the thrall of Palpatine? Because you wanted something from him, and he was filling something within you that you really needed at that moment. And can you forgive yourself for succumbing to that, whatever that means?
Right, and I would say like the absolute worst example of something you can do with someone in that case would be the way Mace Windu handled him. Like, when you're with someone like that, you need to tell them the truth. And the whole truth. You can't have...
Be transparent, because all of it's so secret-oriented.
There's so much secrecy, and there's so much limiting, and you can't handle this right now, and you shouldn't come. Stay here by yourself. Had Mace Windu handled that differently, they probably would have been able to apprehend the Emperor and keep Anakin on the side of the Chosen One. But because that he kept him in the dark, he limited the information he gave him, and he discredited him, that made Anakin feel like he wasn't important and that he didn't deserve to have the information full, which played right into Palpatine's trap.
Yeah, and I mean, and he did the right thing. He came to them and said, hey, I know who the bad guy is. You guys need to do something about it, but let me come, because I know how he works and I can help. And instead, they fucking leave him there by himself and say, no, you stay here, be by yourself. I'm not going to tell you what we're going to do. And also, I don't trust that what you just told me is the truth. So you stay here. You'll be fine. I'm going to go take care of it. Don't worry about it. Which there's, in a situation where a child is not being taken seriously, or any situation,
even like a grown person, and like especially in domestic situations, you see a lot of grooming within families, within relationships, where there is that time to finesse it. And like you're saying, when you finally tell somebody, and they're like, "Well, I'll be the judge of that," and I'll also you can hang out here by yourself until I decide what's really happening. Yeah. And so you're creating a situation where you're isolating him. You're not empowering Anakin, even though everyone is also always calling him the chosen one, which is so lame. And so you've both empowered this person in that weird importance way, but then you're also disempowering him all the time by keeping him out of things. So you have to be one or the other. So it's also that mixed signals that really lays the pathway for someone like Palpatine to come along and manipulate him.
Yeah, absolutely.
So... what else are we seeing with Palpatine and Anakin specifically in terms of grooming?
Or gaslighting.
Gaslighting, true. Well, gaslighting, gaslighting is more... well, it's the morphing of beliefs. It's repeatedly kind of telling someone that they... I don't know, do you feel like maybe like Mace Windu stuff's more like gaslighting?
I don't know if I feel like Mace Windu is gaslighting. I feel like he's
just doesn't trust him.
He's so skeptical.
Yeah.
And rightfully so in the end, but...
you're right. Palpatine does a lot of gaslighting in terms of the Jedi. Like, well, they're kind of
he gaslights
kind of a different story.
Absolutely.
Like, they're all coming after me. They're trying to get my seat of power. And then so when he creates this narrative, then when they do something like Windu be
try to take over
him with a lightsaber, it creates that narrative and it's true.
Right. That one moment of lapse in judgment where Windu decides he's too dangerous to be kept alive, which you're probably right, but the mistake of doing that in front of Anakin and making the decision to do something against the Jedi Code and just kill him, and then show Anakin that despite all the stuff that I've done to enforce with you the importance of the Jedi Code, I'm going to break it right now because I can.
Because I need to. Mm-hmm. And so it's also this thing where, who is he supposed to trust? Anakin doesn't know who he can go to. He's like, I'm standing here. This guy's now all of a sudden it's okay for you to kill him. Like, what is happening right now? And also
it creates a very disorientation where then you can come into that vacuum and fill it up with your own morals and values, which is what a predator will do.
Yeah.
And then I think too, unfortunately, what happens with Anakin is what can happen sometimes with someone who has been abused. More in the situation, I think, of like an elder to a younger person is then he takes on the behaviors and the mentality and internalizes that situation and then repeats it onward. Yeah. Like he then goes on to kill those kids, which is bananas. And then he kills everyone that's important to him.
What are we going to do?
Ugh. Yikes.
And then he goes on and he abuses Padme. He throws her to the ground, and she's pregnant as hell. And everything that he's been doing is for her.
Miraculously. More pregnant each time you see her, even though...
And she's just walking around and no one knows she's pregnant. I have like 1,000 questions about the potholes in this stupid movie.
Happening.
George Lucas is a great
800
writer.
times watching. When we were he did Howard the Duck, so everyone can stop acting like he's Jesus Christo.
Yeah, that movie is
it's
terrifying.
Yeah, like she's walking around all the time in the Senate and no one's like, why is she pregnant? Anyway.
It doesn't make any sense.
I think, and that's what's really sad, and I think what's sad for her too is he just 100% adopts this persona. Once he's done the capital B bad things, he just becomes that person, which is something we sometimes see in therapy, which is their identity becomes the bad things that have happened to them, and then the bad things they did because of that bad thing that happened to them, and how complicit they felt in that bad thing, in that trauma.
And then because that's our identity, they commit to it, which is what we see at the end when he so quickly accepts the role of being Darth Vader.
The worst ever.
Yeah, I thought Hannah swore at the TV right there. Like, what the fuck? Really? Like,
yeah,
I'm Darth Vader now? Like,
I did, yeah.
He wishes he was as cool as Darth Vader. But anyway, there
He
is
literally
that where,
begged to be
and
in the
then when
suit.
you're in treatment, even though you're not happy with who you are, there's where the resistance comes from, because you don't want to forgive yourself and you don't want to change because you're too scared of yourself, of what you could be differently, of not believing you can be a better person because you let this thing happen to you and then you were complicit in it.
Well, no, right, and then it becomes a safe identity, right? Because you don't have to face the consequences of being good and seeking forgiveness if you are not seeking forgiveness.
Well, a lot of times how I explain it to people is to blow something up, all you need is yourself. To blow up a relationship, to ruin a relationship, to disappoint your family, you only need yourself. Mm-hmm. But to trust that, to have good things happen, to have fortuitous relationships, to have a family, to have love, you have to be in it with somebody else. You have to trust in other people, and that can be unfathomable, terrifying, and just the most uncomfortable you can ever be in your life. So that's why people will blow things up, is because I only need myself to blow stuff up. But if I want good things to happen, I got to trust other people. Okay, like, I'm good in my own lane, because there's trust there. I mean, comfort is comfort, even if it's miserable. And I think sometimes when we're outside of that situation, it can be really hard to comprehend. So when I work with parents that have kids who have had trauma, who are then blowing things up every day, they're like, why can't they just behave, and then things will be chill, they'll get all their stuff that they like, and then we'll all be good. And I'm like, because they have to trust you for that to happen. And that's just, you're asking too much right now.
Yeah, I think that part of what can happen in a scenario like this is once you've started a story or a narrative in your head about this is the kind of person that I'm going to be, and this is how it's going to go, and I don't have to, and there's nothing I can do about it, because I already did the bad thing, and I'm already a bad person, and so now I'm stuck in this same story all the time where I can't get my needs met because you're not willing to open up and ask for what you need because you don't trust anyone. And so it's this whole story that kind of keeps people stuck. And so a lot of times I do a lot of talking about what story are you telling yourself right now about this situation, and is there a way that there's a better way or a shift that we can make where the story is a little bit different, and what would that story look like? And sometimes I have people like write it out and tell me what is the first chapter of how we get to this goal. And so sometimes it's just really it just is so much about our identity and so much about our attachment sometimes. And I think that, as we talk about in The Last Jedi, a lot about how most of the people in this universe don't really have good attachment to their parents because they all get yanked when they're little, either to be Jedis or anything, really.
There's no emphasis
nobody
on
grows up
the
with
family or attachments.
Yeah, nobody
but
grows
also
up with their primary caregivers.
But then a weird reliance on the mentee-mentor relationship concurrently. So I gotta be so confusing for everyone in that universe who's trying to attach and be, regular schmegular.
Right, everyone except Leia, who is clearly the most well-adjusted
she's
character
a girl
in the whole thing.
with rich parents. But, so we got the light.
I feel like that's biased, Brittany.
So we got to wrap it up. Mm-hmm. But like I said, you can find us at Popcorn Psychology. This is our logo. Looks like this. Like I said, we go into this specific topic in great detail in the Star Wars Last Jedi, because ironically, Kylo Ren repeats almost the entire same pattern as his grandpa, which is cool for him because he really wants to be just like his grandpa. So
he sure does.
He nailed it.
He will
realizing
finish what he started.
They're not realizing it. And then we also talk about a bunch of different things, not just like Star Wars fantasy. We've done Psycho, we've done Sixth Sense, we've done Fatal Attraction, 50 Shades of Grey, 10 Things I Hate About You. So we talk about a variety of topics, about a variety of different movies. We take requests. Yeah. You can find us at Instagram and Facebook at Popcorn Psychology. You can find us on Twitter at popcorn_psych. And you can always email us at popcornpsychology@gmail.com. Like I said, we take requests, and we're always, spinning out new stories.
Yeah.
And me and Brittany will be at C2E2 next week, walking around with our shirts on, being weird. So if you see us, say hello.
Yeah. So thank you.
Guys.
There we go. Yeah, we can hear me now. I don't necessarily need a mic. I'm loud enough. So while Time Crash gets set up here, you'd think I was the one talking all night. First of all, Ashley is waving back there. She either has to go to the bathroom or she's reminding us that we have raffle tickets. They are free. If you win, you can win these water bottles or a mug or, I don't know if you care, but 3-day passes to C2E2. We're giving 2 of those away. So see Ashley back there, and if she has to go to the bathroom, give her a break. Okay, well, you guys get set up. I'm going to run through some of the sponsors. We have tons of sponsors. Are you guys playing I Don't Want to Go at any point?